It is the time of the color of joy and celebration, the season of Easter. Jesus arose and everything is changed. The darkness of the tomb turned into the light of the resurrection. And we who believe in the one who is Easter are forever changed. Who Jesus is and what he did changes how we live. We are Easter people. It was the first day of knowing Jesus in a new way, and it was Mary Magdalene and a few other women who had the courage to go to the cave where Jesus' body had been laid. But when they got there, they found the cave was already empty. Jesus' body was gone. As Mary wept, wondering where he was, a stranger came up. She didn't recognize him until he said her name. Then she knew it was he. Jesus, standing there with a new body. She wanted to hug him, but Jesus said, "You cannot hold me. I am going to the one who is my Father and your Father, my God and your God." And then he was gone. That day, Mary came to know Jesus in a new way, in his absence. On the second Sunday in the season of Easter, we remember how in the afternoon of the first Easter, two of Jesus' followers made their way slowly on the road from Jerusalem to Emmaus. As they walked, they talked of all that had happened in the last few days. The cross, the empty tomb. What did it mean? As they talked, a stranger joined them and told them all about how the prophecies and scriptures pointed to Jesus' death and resurrection. "Are you not yet understanding?" he said. In the village of Emmaus, as they sat down for supper, the stranger took a piece of bread, lifted it up, gave thanks to God for it, broke it, and gave it to each of them. It was then that they knew it was he. But in that very same moment, he was gone. They sat in stunned wonder. That day, they met Jesus in a new way, in the breaking of the bread. On the third Sunday in the season of Easter, we remember one night in Jerusalem when the disciples were gathered together in a room. They had shut tight the doors, afraid that the soldiers would come and take them like they had taken Jesus. And then all of a sudden, Jesus came close, right in the middle of them. "Peace be with you," he said. At first they thought it was a ghost, but then he showed them his wounds. They touched them, and they saw him eat a piece of fish. And then, as suddenly as he came to them, he was gone. Thomas had been away that night, and when the disciples told him the next day, "We have seen the Lord," he did not believe them. He had doubt deep inside him. I need to see and touch the wounds in his hands, then I will believe," Thomas said. 8 days passed. The disciples again gathered in a room with the doors shut. This time Thomas was with them. And then Jesus came close, right in the middle of them, with the door still locked. "Peace be with you," he said. And this time, Jesus went right up to Thomas and held out his hand. "Touch me here. Do not doubt, but believe." Thomas fell to his knees. "My Lord and my God." "Do you believe because you have seen me?" Jesus asked. "Blessed are those who have not seen me and yet believe." That day, Thomas met Jesus in a new way, in his doubt. On the 4th Sunday in the season of Easter, we remember how the disciples went north to Galilee, as Jesus had told them to. Many of them were fishermen, so they went to the Sea of Galilee, where they had grown up and fished with their fathers. When they got there, they decided to go out on the lake and fish. They fished all night long, but caught nothing. In the morning, they could see the shoreline and someone standing there by a fire. "Have you caught anything?" the person called out. "No," they called back. "Cast your net to the right side and you'll find some." So they cast their net on the right side, and at once the net began to tug. They could feel the fish moving as they held onto the ropes. So many fish filled the net that they could not pull it back into the boat. "It's the Lord!" John cried. Immediately, Peter jumped into the water, for they were not far from the shore. The others turned the boat toward land, dragging the net full of fish with them. When they got ashore, the stranger called out, "Bring some of the fish you just caught." Peter ran to the boat, picked up the net, and hauled the entire net full of large fish ashore. 153 fish in all. "Come, have breakfast," Jesus said. There were fish cooking on the fire and bread too. Jesus took the bread and the fish and gave it to each of them. And then Jesus turned to Peter and asked, "Do you love me?" "Yes, of course," Peter replied. "Feed my lambs," Jesus said. And then a second time Jesus asked Peter, "Do you love me?" Peter answered, "Yes, you know I love you." "Tend my sheep," Jesus said. And then a third time Jesus asked, "Peter, do you love me?" Peter was very sad that Jesus had asked him a third time. "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." "Feed my sheep," Jesus said. And then he got up and said, "Peter, Follow me." And Peter got up, and the two of them walked off along the shoreline. That day, Peter knew Jesus in a new way. He knew him in the morning. On the 5th Sunday in the season of Easter, we remember how all the disciples gathered in Galilee. They went to a mountain to meet Jesus, and they found he was already there, waiting for them. It was good to see him, even in this new way. But what was going to happen now? Listen, he was talking again. What was that? "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me." What was he talking about? And then he said something even bigger for their ears to hear. "Go everywhere, tell my story, even this part, to everyone. Tell them the story so that they can become part of it. Baptize them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit." Where? To people of all nations? That is too far to travel. Too much to do. How could they? Then they heard him say, "For lo, I am with you always, to the very end of the age. And you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, power to take this good news to Jerusalem, to Judea, to Samaria, and all the parts of the world. Wait here in Jerusalem, for the Holy Spirit will come, not so many days from now, just as the Father promised." And after he had said these things, he raised his hands and blessed them. And while he was blessing them, he began to lift up off the ground. Up, up, into the sky. He ascended all the way up into a cloud so that they could no longer see him. Yet they stood gazing up to where he had gone. Suddenly, two men dressed in white clothes stood beside them. "Men of Galilee, why are you standing looking up into the sky?" they asked. "Jesus has been taken up into heaven. But know this, one day he will come back, just as you saw him go." With great awe and wonder and joy, Jesus' followers walked back south to Jerusalem. They had been followers. Now they were to be leaders. They had been sheep. Now they were to be shepherds. They had come home for the last time. And now they were to go and make a home, a place for others. In Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and all around the world. I wonder what part of this story you like the best. I wonder what you are wondering about after hearing this story. I wonder how the disciples felt when Jesus told them to leave their homes and go everywhere and tell his story. I wonder where we are in Jesus' story. I wonder how we become part of it. Jesus said he would be with the disciples forever. I wonder how he was with them. I wonder how we find him with us. And finally, I wonder what part of this story is most important